All right. Hey, good afternoon, folks. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Today is Tuesday, October 8th, 2024. This is your afternoon update on Hurricane Milton for YouTube. We just completed a long Facebook Live over on the Facebook page. So if you guys want a lot of coastal and specific information, we covered pretty much all of Florida in one way or the other in that video. So if you want to pick through there and see if you can find your area or somewhere close to it, we talked all about specific impacts. This is going to be a general update on Milton and some impact related stuff though, just so we have something for YouTube today. So Milton, as we have it this afternoon, is still a major hurricane. Maximum sustained winds are 150 miles an hour as of the 11 a.m. advisory. Movements to the east-northeast at 9 miles an hour. The storm has generally held steady overnight. It underwent an unbelievably explosive intensification phase yesterday after we talked. As we recorded it, it just touched Category 5. Milton got down to 897 millibars, which was the fifth lowest pressure ever recorded in the Atlantic Basin, anytime, anywhere, any place, and the strongest in the Gulf of Mexico since Hurricane Rita in 2005. So unbelievably low pressure, lower than Camille, lower than Katrina, lower than some of the other infamous Gulf Coast hurricanes. And again, the second strongest, I think, in the Gulf of Mexico ever, behind Rita, and fifth strongest in Atlantic Basin. Now, it did undergo an eyewall replacement cycle last night, and it is kind of close to the Yucatan Peninsula this morning. So we've seen some weakening, but the last couple hours has shown a bit of strengthening. Milton's eye is clearing out on satellite imagery over here on cyclonic weather. We can see the last couple frames that the clouds start to leave the eye, and a tighter CDO wraps around the back side of it. Milton does appear to be bottling off some westerly wind shear. There is some degradation on the western CDO, which tells us that there might be some wind shear undercutting the higher cloud tops, because there's not a lot of evidence of true wind shear along the high clouds, but sometimes wind can get up under these clouds that you see on the satellite. And it looks like it did temporarily disrupt the CDO, but the storm looks like it's improving, and the pressure, according to the recon hurricane hunters over here on Tropical Tidbits, the recon data suggests that the pressure has been falling from 930 back into the 920s. Not an explosive intensification phase as of yet, but they are still finding flight level winds near 150 knots, about 160, 170 miles an hour. So, 150, 155 is probably the call right now, but it is very likely that Milton will become a Category 5 hurricane again this afternoon and tonight as it begins to pull away from the Yucatan Peninsula and move northward towards Florida. So let me go over to the experimental cone and show you what's still to come here. Again, Milton is forecast to move along and be offshore of Florida tomorrow night, and we begin to see that weakening trend probably sometime tomorrow. HFAS-A model shows this really well. We'll back it up to this afternoon. So the model at 18Z is pretty close to right, a little too high in terms of pressure. The 12Z runs of this I don't think are out yet. So, maybe. Oh, no, so we do have the 12Z run, so we'll actually look at this live here. So HFAS is showing that pressure holding pretty steady and then falling for a few hours into early Wednesday with a bottoming out at 925. So if you correct for what's already off, I mean, it looks like it's going to go back into the low 900s. Milton has a chance to once again make another big run. I think that wind shear is going to be a little high for this thing to go for any kind of all-time records, but it's going to be otherwise over very warm water and poised very close to an upper jet streak over like Florida and Georgia. Is going to be some strong upper winds that are going to be just right. You can see this band of cirrus clouds moving this direction. So Milton's going to have about 12 hours over very, very warm water, moving away from land and having this jet streak interaction to try to go for it again. Expect Milton to become a Category 5 again this afternoon, and then begin to weaken on approach to Florida. Of course, the question is how much of a weakening and where exactly does this make landfall as we get into Wednesday. Right now, the Wednesday landfall looks more like a Thursday landfall, right around midnight on Wednesday into early Thursday morning. The Hurricane Center's current forecast still brings us in right about Tampa Bay and could be just north or just south. Now, if we look at some of these high-resolution models, most of the ones that have been performing well with Milton are bringing this in just north of Tampa Bay. The model moves up, and you can see the dramatic weakening here, 930 on about 936 millibar pressure at 8 a.m. on Wednesday. But then as we go into the evening on Wednesday, we're back into the 950s. The current HFAS run actually comes in right about Tampa Bay, but the 6Z run was a little bit further north and pulled just north of Tampa Bay. I think that's very possible because if you look at the convective pattern of Milton as it comes in, the storm is going to be expanding in size, both north and south, and a lot of the weather is going to be pulled north with Milton because that's where the trough interaction is. So I think that there is some chance that that vortex could tug just a little bit north But even a direct hit on Tampa Bay is going to be really bad. A landfall just north of Tampa Bay is going to be even worse in terms of storm surge for the area. But this is still confidently forecast to weaken from Category 5, but still be a powerful major hurricane. And as I've talked about in the Facebook Live videos and on my post yesterday, a 5 going to a 3 is got that old man strength about it. It's like that world champion boxer that trained for 20 years and then, maybe they don't have that top end strength anymore, but when they hit you in the jaw, you know it, and they've hit a lot of people in the jaw that way. A Category 5 hurricane that weakens to a 3 is like that. And I really, really want to stress, a lot of people are using Katrina, and I don't know if Katrina is the best example here because Milton is undergoing some extratropical transition. Katrina didn't do that. But the baseline thought of, yes, a weaker storm in terms of wind, but it will spread the wind over more area. It will cause more storm surge and overall more destruction than if this stayed a compact buzzsaw. So definitely want to stress that. But Milton makes landfall late on Wednesday, early on Thursday, maybe around midnight to 2 a.m. somewhere, Bradenton, Clearwater, Sarasota, Tampa, maybe just a little bit further north. It's going to right through Polk County, through Central Florida, Orlando, Kissimmee, Zephyr Hills, all those areas right there. And then it's going to come across and cross over Melbourne and the Space Coast on Thursday morning, Thursday maybe early afternoon, and then move offshore. Heavy weather will spread across northern Florida, and then sporadically heavy weather will also be moving across South Florida as the storm passes. For this region of Central Florida, this is going to be a hurricane, and it's going to be the worst hurricane most of you have ever experienced besides the few people that were grazed by Hurricane Charlie in 2004. This will be one of the worst hurricanes on record for western Central Florida, bar none. No human being alive has a living memory of the Tampa Bay hurricane of 1921, so this will be the worst storm of record. I once again implore you, if you are in the path of the storm surge, it is going to be at least 10 to 15 feet in Tampa Bay. Now, if this comes in a bit further south of expectation, that number could go down, but it will still be in that 5 to 10 foot range. It will still be very high. If it comes in just north of Tampa Bay, like Clearwater or something, it will be catastrophic. It will be absolutely catastrophic for the Tampa Bay area, and that place will not be recognizable for a long period of time. It will be jaw-dropping, to put it lightly. The threat to Tampa Bay remains absolutely dire at this hour. And then a lot of folks inland, that are going to be staying in their homes and whatever, you're going to get a hell of a hurricane as this comes through. Showing you some regional impact charts. We'll kind of go through these broad brush. Again, if you're around that Tampa area and into about that southern, southeastern Orlando, greater Orlando area, Lakeland kind of, I'll kind of zoom in and show you some more towns, kind of Lakeland between Kissimmee, back towards Spring Hill and Zephyr Hills. That's where in the purple, you have the potential for wind gusts over, I actually need to reload this because I don't think this is actually the most current. Yeah, so they've actually updated this a little bit. Generally the same thing, though. Anywhere in the purple, wind gusts over 100 miles an hour, very possible to likely. This will cause some roof failures. This will cause some wall failures. This will be throwing things in the wind that will be able to pierce the side of your house. It will be very dangerous and very bad in this purple area. The red area is hurricane conditions, wind gusts 80 to 100 miles an hour, definitely at least into the 70s. That includes Palm Bay, that includes Melbourne. And notice how this red has worked up into Palm Coast and parts of Jacksonville as well. The hurricane warnings are in effect to about Ponte Vedra, and this corridor of 95 could also see hurricane force wind gusts above 75 miles an hour. Most of the rest of Jacksonville is kind of in those 50s and 60s, and some counties out to the west, maybe a little more in the 40s and 50s. If you're pretty much west of Jacksonville and north of Gainesville, you're going to get a better storm than what you got with Helene. Same thing for southeast Georgia, except again for that 95 corridor where it could be worse. And then if you're around Jacksonville, Gainesville, kind of northern St. John's, you're kind of looking at about the same as Helene. And then if you're in coastal St. John's, Palm Coast, and maybe southern Putnam counties, you're definitely going to be getting a storm worse than Helene and stronger winds. There will be more storm surge. Again, storm surge for the west coast of Florida will be prolific. The east coast of Florida, probably about 3 to 5 feet for a lot of folks. And there's a heavy threat of flooding rainfall. The purple area is the highest risk the SPC or WPC issues. There will be widespread freshwater flooding in this area. There will be lots of power outages, mostly widespread power outages, lots of tree damage. As we talked about in our Facebook Live video, the trees are going to got pushed from the south and the southwest during Helene. They're going to be getting pushed from the east and the northeast during Milton. So you're going to have a much more waterlogged soil and a different wind direction, which is going to cause a lot more tree damage and power outages than we had with Helene. and there will be a lot more widespread. But that flooding rain threat goes up into Jacksonville, where some parts of southern Jacksonville could still see another 8 to 10 inches on top of what has already fallen. That's in the National Weather Service brief from Jacksonville. 10 to 15 inches for Palm Coast, 8 to 10 inches for the St. Johns County, southern St. Johns, St. Augustine area. Generally about 4 to 6 for a lot of the rest of the counties of St. Johns County, or Duval, Clay, Nassau, Baker, then, you get kinds of North Baker, Lake City, you're looking at less rain, and then not much rain for southeast Georgia for the most part. Cold front's going to keep you guys mostly dry, and more like 3 to 4 inches back towards St. Simons, Fernandina, and kind of our coastal areas of southeast Georgia. That's, I can't really show y'all every single threat and impact, but if you want to pause the video, I can show you the storm surge if you want to pause it at some point. Again, catastrophic storm surge for Tampa Bay. And if this track winds up shifting a bit north at the last minute, you may see those numbers go up. 15 might not even cover it. You can see the 3 to 5 for there. Tornado threat's going to be mostly for South Florida, while the rain and the wind will be less for South Florida. Kind of like Cape Coral and southward, like Port St. Lucie, Cape Coral southward will be more like tropical storm conditions or lighter tropical storm conditions. But bands of heavy tornadic supercells could be possible. So tornado threat mostly cuts off around the southern part of northeast Florida, like Palm Coast and southern St. Johns, is really the border for tornado threat. Anything north of that, you may see an isolated one, but not in the biggest threat for tornadoes, thankfully, for northern Florida. And again, wind threat, big deal with this. This is going to come in as a very powerful Category 3 hurricane, at least. It very well might be a little bit stronger in even that. So we do expect it to weaken, but a lot of rain, a lot of wind to come. The only good news, guys, is once this passes, a lot of cool fall air comes in. So if you lose power, you're going to get a couple of days of cooler weather. This is Saturday morning's low temperatures. You can see 50s all the way into southern Georgia, maybe even a couple 40s inland, and then low to mid 60s for much of the peninsula of Florida. Much drier, cooler air coming in overall. So that's what I got for you guys today on Hurricane Milton. Going to be a nasty storm, guys. And please, in western central Florida, heed evacuation orders. If you're in North Florida and you're near, the coast, you're going to get a really nasty storm from this too. So make sure you're away from trees, away from coastal flooding, all that stuff. And that's what I got for you. So stay safe, folks. We'll have at least one more video on Milton before it makes landfall tomorrow, and we'll have another Facebook Live tomorrow morning on the page. So until then, thanks for watching. Stay safe and have a good one.